Excellent.
Hello, and welcome back to Southwest Ghost Watch, live episode number 3, I think it is now.
It is.
And tonight's topic is going to be all about dreams. Hold on, you can hear me. Never just shame, lower that down. Here, we won't get that now.
Ghostly voices.
Anyway, so tonight's dreams, yeah. So again, it's myself, Ian. To my left is normally the guy behind the camera, Ryan. And to my right then will be Dr. Martin Shroby, our resident psychologist and parapsychologist. So tonight, dreams, yeah. I think there's a few things we talked about off camera we want to talk about.
We did. Dreams. Dreams are very simply a message from yourself to yourself.
Okay.
We think the mind is made up of the conscious bit, and the rest of the mind, 80% of it, is the unconscious. During the day, we've been processing what's happened. Everything we've ever experienced in a particular day, or indeed the rest up till now, is stored in there. The problem is we remember consciously perhaps 2,000 bits of information when we're probably dealing with several million bits a day. So when we dream, what we're effectively doing is processing the everyday stuff that we've gone through. A dream, if there's an emotion that you're not handling particularly well, if there's a problem in your life you're not handling particularly well, if there's something you're really enjoying, it might influence your dreams.
Okay.
So look at the dream as a message to explore the inner self. And also look at it in terms of not a symbol, but a pun. It's there to remind you. Let me give you a very simple example. A friend of mine a few years ago was going to the Soviet Union, and we drank a little bit too much that night, and we made jokes about the KGB arresting him. That night, he dreamt about a bee in a cage, a KGB.
Okay, I can
see the connection.
Yeah.
Now, some people might work on that level. Some people might push images together. Everybody's dream symbolism is their own. So you can't go and get a book, and say, what does this mean? You have to say, what does this mean to so-and-so? And interpret it in that way. So when you look at dreams, I say, what's going on? How does my mind work? What sort of symbols are there? And that's how we can begin to tackle dreams. There's two sorts of dreams we have. There's what we call rapid eye movement dreams and non-rapid eye movement dreams. Give you a bit of the boring biology and anatomy of it. What happens is that when we sleep, we go through cycles of 90 minutes. For the first cycle, we move into REM sleep, when the mind refreshes itself. When we move into the stages 2, 3 and 4, we're having non-REM sleep, which is when we think the brain and the body are pushing endorphins and neuropeptides to help the body recover.
Yeah.
REM dreams are dreams that help you deal with emotions. Non-REM are a little vaguer.
Okay.
And not as vivid.
2 seconds. Okay. Just carry on. I'm just going off camera.
So let's think, for example, how we might use a REM dream and a non-REM dream. I'm sure all of you can remember what it's like when you look over and you see your pet with eyes moving rapidly, running, and you can see the dog's legs twitch. Yeah. That dog is dreaming effectively in REM. Yeah. When the dog is deeply asleep, it's not moving. We're like that. Sometimes we wake up at the next stage of 90 minutes before we sink into it again. And as we go through the night and we get towards morning, the non-REM gets less and the REM increases. I'm sure you can all remember that sort of dream when you've been on a holiday, you don't have to get up and you keep dozing off. And you dream upon dream upon dream. That's when you're nearing waking. So, always think of a dream in that way. In the West, when we think of dreams, some people say dreams are meaningless, they're no more than the garbage. But if you treat your dreams as garbage, you're not going to get a lot out of them.
So I throw them to one side in the morning, don't forget about them.
You can do a lot about, if you respect your dreams, you're going to find a lot of information about yourself. that you can either share with your significant other or you can think about during the day. Yeah. I am told that when John Prescott got into trouble for having an affair with the lady concerned, what actually made the lady's husband aware was she kept groaning and calling out John Prescott's name during the night. Now,
A bit of a slip-up.
a bit of a slip-up.
Yeah.
So be careful what you say in your sleep. They're not necessarily dreams.
Okay, I think we move on to our next one. Quite one thing I was talking to you before. So like I've experienced myself is teeth.
Yes.
What are the dreams and teeth then?
Well, I'd have to first of all, if you'd gone to see good old Dr. Freud in Vienna,
Okay.
he would have thought you were suffering from castration anxiety, Ian, but I know you're not, so we won't go down that line. But one of the main things about teeth usually is an anxiety about losing face
Okay.
in a public situation. Sometimes, I was working with somebody a few weeks ago who dreamt he'd gone to work stark naked. And he grabbed the nearest cardboard box to hide himself in, and the dream was so realistic that he actually thought he was at work. This guy was going through a particularly difficult time at work and having issues, so he felt literally naked at work, exposed, vulnerable.
Okay, I'm with you.
Yeah. So always look. The most important thing is the feeling tone in a dream. Yeah. How does it make you feel?
So it makes you feel uncomfortable,
Yeah.
comfortable, type thing, vice versa.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm with you.
If you jump out of a plane and you think it's wonderful, go with that flow. If you jump out and you're screaming your head off, it says something entirely different. Always relate the dream back to the person who's presenting you with the dream.
Okay.
Don't make interpretations that might be your view.
I'm with you.
I remember years ago I had a very, I was talking to a particular lady who was much enamoured with John Major. In fact, she dreamt she was making love to John Major.
Oh, I don't know if that's
Yes.
a happy dream and nightmare or...
I don't know, it depends on the person's perspective. But what I noticed, the irony was that years later, this was the same period where John Major was having the affair with Edwina Currie. So obviously John Major had an ability to touch people in many different ways. But it depends what John Major meant to you.
Okay, fair enough. What about then, I think again it's another thing we were talking about when we were off camera was using dreams creatively.
Yeah. One of the main reasons we're not creative is we let everyday life crush our creativity. If we learn to use those dreams, we can develop our imagination, our ability to have insights and breakthroughs. There's some very interesting scientific work was discovered using dreams. There was, I can't remember who developed the structure of the, I think it was the benzene molecule.
Okay.
He fell asleep and he'd been working on this mathematical problem, how you got all the electrons and neutrons and protons to fit in with one another. He dreamt of two snakes encircling, biting each other's tails.
Okay.
And when he came to, he got the structure. Now what's really interesting about that symbol of the snake is a very, very ancient symbol of creativity. In ancient Greece, it was the symbol of the snake god in Greece, in Greek, where Asclepius, where you would go and sleep in the temple to get insight. So there we had a rational scientist having a dream that helped him understand what was happening. I can never remember who wrote the famous piece of work, The Devil's Sonata, but it was an 18th century composer who fell asleep and dreamt that the devil appeared and played on the fiddle. When he woke up, he wrote it down.
Okay.
And that's the origin of the Devil's Sonata.
Right with it.
Coleridge, the poet, after some sort of drug-induced binge, fell asleep and dreamt he heard a voice speaking a poem. And Xanadu did Kubla Khan a mighty pleasure dome decree where Alf the sacred river ran in caverns and measureless to bound down to the sun and the sea. And this dream went on and on and on. Coleridge woke up, wrote it down. But just as he was halfway through it, a debt collector called, so he was a bit distressed, and he never completed it. The guy who invented the steam engine, or the idea for the steam engine, was it Stevenson?
I think it was Stevenson.
Yeah, or was it James Watt? I can never remember. He was dreaming by the fire, and the kettle was boiling and pushing the lid up.
Yeah, we had a conversation with this.
And he just couldn't be bothered to get up and deal with it. And then he suddenly had an idea. He's pushing that up. And that's where he got the idea. So our unconscious, our dream life, our creative life, if we respect it, can be really, really useful.
That's right. So if you do have any creative dreams,
yeah, I
always
mean,
make
if
notes.
there are anybody who wants to, talk about a particular dream, please,
Ask.
and ask away. Otherwise, I can talk about dreams, and I can talk about dreams in different cultures, or whatever you like.
Anything.
If you think about how we handle dreams, if you think about the ancient world, in the Bible, we have numerous examples of dreams being used in the Old Testament. We have Jacob's ladder, where Jacob wrestles with an angel. We have the dreams that Moses has, when he's in Egypt. And people in those days saw dreams as like messages from the other side. The important thing to remember there is that Carl Jung, the great psychologist of the early part of the 19th century, 20th century, believed that we all shared a thing called the collective unconscious, which is like a common layer of stored messages, stored symbols. And when we dream, we look at our own symbols there, and we make interpretations from that.
Okay.
So it may be that, I'll give you an example. During the Third Reich, during Hitler's reign in Germany, Hitler began to appear in more and more people's dreams.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's
Because it was something that they were in. The only other recorded case of where we had that, where a person in politics has begun to appear in people's dreams, was during the 1980s, and apparently Maggie Thatcher used to appear in people's dreams quite regularly. Not as often as Hitler, but it was approaching it. Of course, I'm not making any political points there, of course.
More closer to like then.
But the point could well be, couldn't it? But the point is, the society we live in influences the basic layer of our dreams.
All right.
The beliefs we have illustrate the levels, the nature of our dreams. What we're going through, so there's a society level, there's a personal level, and there's a level that is from our unconscious.
Okay.
So we're dealing with 3 or 4 different strands. So every dream has to be looked at clearly, logically, imaginatively, using the person's way of looking at a dream.
Okay.
Yeah? Listening carefully. It's very helpful to write out your dreams and think about them.
Yeah, I'm going to ask a question. Do you do that?
Yes, I do.
Yeah?
Or sometimes I'll talk about my dreams in the morning.
Because I've always talked about it, I've never actually sat down with pen and paper.
It's a very good basis for a relationship to talk about your dreams in the morning.
Yeah. Like, I had a fantastic dream last night today.
Yeah.
Okay, I think there's a few things I think you wanted to talk about as well. I don't know if we should move on to this one actually. Yeah, Shimar should be quite interested. Sexual dreams. I suppose.
That's so interesting. Let's put the context of sexual dreams, shall we say, in its proper situation. Sexual dreams do not necessarily mean sexuality.
No.
They might do, but they might not. I'll give you an example. Suppose somebody dreams that they're making love to somebody else in a particular way. You might have to use a metaphor or a pun to describe what they might be massively turned on.
Okay.
Yeah? Okay. A sexual dream doesn't necessarily indicate that you're attracted to somebody. It might mean that you want to get close to somebody and understand what's happening on
Okay.
Yeah. Sometimes I get blokes or women who come in and dream they're making love to somebody of the same sex. They go, oh no, I didn't know I was gay, they think. But if you think about it, what that may simply mean is they're looking at the qualities of the person. Yeah?
Mm-hmm.
They're talking
Okay.
to the person. They're looking for something they admire or are attracted to in the person. Yeah.
Okay.
So sexual dreams are very useful. I mean, if you dream that you're making love to somebody at work that you never know, you're not having a sexual relationship, it doesn't necessarily mean you are attracted to them.
Okay.
If it's somebody who's you don't find at all attractive, then it might mean what it is in myself that I don't find attractive.
Okay.
If you're dreaming of making love to some well-known figure on a film you've seen, that's pretty standard sexually.
Yeah. It's a,
Whatever.
Yeah.
But you have to be very respectful of the way sexuality is in dreams. Freud believed, you see, that there are two parts of the mind. There's the ego and the id. The id, according to Freud, was where we kept all our depraved thoughts. Now, Freud's views very much belong to that repressed society of the time. And Freud believed that there were things that we just couldn't own up to. So, if we dreamt of enormous towers, ears, yeah, if we dreamt of losing control by running faster and faster, we were symbolising our sexuality in ways that the brain and the mind could cope with. But of course we live in a very different age to Freud now.
Very, yeah.
So not every jewelled tower is a penis, I'm afraid. It is probably a jewelled tower.
Yeah.
That you have to respect. And Freud also believed that dreams kept us asleep. We know that's completely wrong now.
No.
We know that dreams are doing a process of processing. They're rather like something on a computer running below the surface. It's a bit like Windows, yeah, handling the information that we're dealing with. So sexual dreams are very important because we live in a society today where sexuality is openly discussed. We just deny death in modern society and don't talk about that. In Freud's day, it was entirely different. But we have to be very fair to Freud in the sense that what he was doing was getting us to talk about those areas of life that they didn't talk about all the time. Everybody thinks that psychotherapists just talk about sex all the time. Sex is just one mirror by which we can read what's going on in your life. You know?
Okay.
There are many other mirrors as well. So sexual dreams are very important, and it's also a very useful way of analysing what you're doing,
Okay.
how you're doing it, to whom, why, what you like, what you don't like.
Okay.
Yeah. People get really, really upset about some of the things that is written about sexually, but it is safe.
You know, cheating, you know, it's just part and parcel of the dream process.
It's part of the dream process.
Okay. I think moving on is something I want to ask you later on.
Yeah.
If there we want to move on to possibly recurring dreams, or maybe actually.
Yeah.
I'm going to go back, yeah.
What do you want to do first?
How to remember dreams? I was going to.
Oh yes. Now, people tell me that they don't remember. Some people don't remember dreams. Some remember dreams all the time. It's really simple. We know there are people who don't dream as much, who don't seem to remember. The more imaginative you are, though you're not necessarily unimaginative if you don't remember, you're more likely to remember your dreams. There's a very simple way to remember your dreams. When you got a day off from work, or if you've got nothing to do in a particular night, just set your alarm to go off every hour and a half. When you wake up, you will remember a dream. Have a little tape thing or a little recorder by the bed.
Yeah.
Speak your dream into it. However dazed you feel, whatever. Because sure as, you'll probably forget it by the morning. Many times I've had dreams. That's really interesting. And then it's gone in the morning. Yeah. So practice. Some people suggest that what they do when they go to bed at night. One technique I know that sometimes I use is to imagine, put a chair opposite yourself and talk to it and say, okay, dreams, I want to remember you tonight. Yeah?
Right.
Give a suggestion like that.
Yeah.
Other ways to remember dreams. You don't remember your dreams very well if you've been drinking. Different alcohol affects dreams in different ways. The very worst thing for dreams is gin.
Yeah.
It disrupts your dreams. Which gives me an idea of why to illustrate. Alcoholics do not see hallucinations because they're drunk.
Okay, so
They see hallucinations because the consumption of alcohol they've had has stopped them sleeping properly. So when they're awake, their brain is trying to go to sleep and is actually projecting hallucinations, which should be in a dream state, out there.
Okay, we do.
Yeah. So, you know, there's a particular red wine, I can never remember what it is. As soon as I drink it, I have the most rich, vivid dreams. And if I've been playing too much World of Warcraft on the computer, sometimes I dream I'm in Stormwind or Durotar or anywhere like that. And the most disturbing thing is you have people with exclamation marks above their head. Because anything you do a lot of,
Yeah.
will influence your dreams. If I'm stressed, I would dream I've lost a client. I don't know where I'm seeing them at what time. Or the other night a few weeks ago, I kept dreaming that client after client upon client kept turning up to see me, and I had nowhere to put them, and they were getting more and more upset that I couldn't see them. It's also an indication of what happens. My grandfather, who was in World War I during in the beginning of the last century, used to say that people who had shell shock were people who kept dreaming of when they woke up, they were in the trenches.
Mm-hmm.
When they went to sleep, they were in the trenches. As long as they were dreaming of the green fields of Wales, they were coping with it. Dreams are a means to keep us sane.
Okay, so they grasp on some level of reality.
That's right. So, really, that's an important side of it. It tells a lot about what's going on in our lives.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right then. I think that was quite answered quite good, and I was definitely for that one. So what we did to that one, so I think we did.
Reoccurring?
Yeah. Do you want to pick on reoccurring next?
Yeah. Recurring dreams occur in three circumstances. The first circumstance is when they occur when we're trying to get a message to ourselves.
Okay.
That we're not acting on. A recurring dream may be trying our unconscious to point us in a particular situation, a particular way. A recurring dream might also be an indication of stress, because we don't know how to resolve it in a particular situation, trying to make a decision.
Okay.
We have that old expression, sleep on it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sometimes we get answers after we've slept on it. And then there's a curious dreams where the message is so vague. I remember a friend of mine having a dream that he was at Paddington railway station trying to get a train to Paddington.
Okay.
Now if you think about that,
Yeah.
it showed that he'd already arrived. But he didn't yet recognise that he was aware of it. Dreams like that are a message. But I'll give you an example. Just before Princess Diana was killed in the car accident in Paris a good few years ago, since now. That night, the next day, I had lots of, on a Monday morning, I had people ringing up and saying they dreamt Diana had died. Now, probably lots of us dream about figures dying at night. And that, when it actually happens, you remember it.
Yeah.
But dreams can also have very important ways of leading us forward. I remember a friend of mine who does a lot of international lecturing, during the war was evacuated from Jersey to London because the Germans were coming, and she used to dream, she used to talk about, she used to hear the bombs falling, And she imagined herself in a valley, in a mountainside, in a monastery, where she was safe. Years later, after the war, she actually came across a picture of that monastery.
Good stuff.
Now that's really quite a bizarre thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very.
Just before my father died, 6 months before, he dreamt that he nearly died that time, and he dreamt he was walking through a wood in what was clearly ancient Greece, and he came to this building which was a Greek temple, and in it were the old gods and goddesses of the ancient Greeks, and they said, "You're not wanted yet, Keith. Go back." He woke up, told me about it, and he thought it was a really interesting experience. He said, "For God's sake, don't tell your mother, it'll do her head in." But to him, that symbol was very, very important. There we have a rational man working as a building estimator, very much mathematically inclined, has a dream which comes from the old gods and goddesses of ancient Greece. A bit you don't talk about to many people.
No, you don't.
You know?
Not in this day and age.
Not in this day and age. And so a lot of it is embarrassment about not talking about your dreams and looking at issues that could help us. So, you know, the most interesting thing about the dreams of the dying usually are that it seems that this frequently, I think there was a case that Marie-Louise von Franz was writing about in her book Death and Dying in Dreams, and there was a young woman who was dying of terminal cancer. She hadn't got long to go, and in this dream she looked around and she saw herself in the bed, and the doctor said to her, "It's all right, you can go now. You're cured." The next day she died, which is very, very interesting. It's almost as if the dream gives a suggestion that we do continue in some form.
Life carries on.
Life carries
Yeah.
on. The mind is incapable of, if you like, the unconscious, of perceiving of the ending of it. And if you look at the dreams of the ill and the dying, you get some very interesting images. You know, like the man who dreamt he was going up a mountain and everything was grey and dying. And he just broke through, and up there he was on top of the mountain and it was beautiful. It's amazing things like that. So you need to respect dreams in that way. Always relate it back to the person. What does it mean to them? Yeah.
Connecting the bridges.
Tread softly because you walk upon my dreams.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. And so, you know, if you start telling people's dreams are meaningless, caused by pieces of cheese, you're not going to get much out of it.
No, definitely not.
So, you know, look at them. What does it mean to the person concerned?
Okay. I think that's quite interesting. That's actually. Yes. Again, anybody watching live, go to southwestghostwatch.co.uk, follow the links, or go to Facebook and find us in the Southwest Ghost Watch, and look for us and ask questions live. Now we're still on here for another 32 minutes, I think. So yeah, ask away while we move on. Next one, I think, is nightmares.
Oh yes. Nightmares. Interesting things, nightmares. I'll be 55 next April, so I actually remember the very, very, very first Doctor Who. In black and white. He was the old guy. And it terrified the living daylights out of me. I remember the Cybermen and the Daleks.
Tinfoil Cybermen.
And the Phantom Piper, who people heard and carried them away to death. I was terrified.
Yeah.
Now, if you're an imaginative child, you're trying to deal with things in the world, and you're trying to make sense of what scares you. You're going to hold on to things. Yeah. You're going to try and make interpretations. You're going to try and deal with those fears. And the things that threaten you, the monsters that threaten you, are usually part of those fears. But it's part of learning to grow up and deal with fear. quickly I learned to do something called lucid dreaming. Now, near where I was born, there were these ruined brewery places, brewery towers, and I frequently learned to deal with those dreams by running up the towers when the monster was chasing me and jumping out to wake myself up. So I was beginning to learn adoptive methods of coping, to become conscious in dreams. And that's an ability I have every now and then. We can all learn that ability, and it helps us grow our creativity. I must confess, I'm a keen animal rights activist and a vegetarian, but when I was a little lad, my grandmother had this Scottish dog called Sally, and I used to lay a biscuit trail, so a book would fall on Sally's head. Now obviously I was basically a good lad, because at night I used to dream that Sally was enormous and was chasing me. Now that was my conscience. Part of me knew already it was the wrong thing to do.
Yeah.
So when I was processing that information, it was, I was dealing with it by Sally was suddenly bigger than me. How was I going to think about it? Because Sally was much smaller than me.
Okay.
So it was a reverse. It was like making me think. So a dream can give insight in that way. Yeah. I know people who've had dreams of horror films. I remember a particular dream called Night of the Demon from the, it was made in the very, very late 50s, and I probably saw it from like 67, 68, and it terrified me to death. And in my dreams at night, this creature was chasing me. Saw it a few months ago, and I could see the strings. Yeah. Now, there was an example of something I wasn't looking for. My imagination was so powerful that I didn't see the strings. Yet here, today, when I saw that film, I thought, oh, that's interesting.
You laugh at it.
I laugh at it. The number of people who are, their nightmares are going to be influenced by Dracula films, Frankenstein films, Nosferatu films. I can remember my son being terrified by seeing a Scooby-Doo series when he was a little boy, where there was, I think there was a particular monster chasing, what was it called? I can't remember what he did tell me about it. And it appeared in his dreams. And then when he saw Jurassic Park, the raptors, when we used to live in another house in Swansea, he dreamt the raptors had come to the house, and him and his mum were in one room, and I was not there. So I said, well, where was I, Morgan? He said, I'm afraid you were inside the raptors, Dad. So the raptors had already eaten me. Yeah. Now he was working out, being a very small boy at the time, that his mum was obviously far more with him all the time than I was, because I was working.
So there's a level of
so it's
absence.
like absence. So it's like, how can I explain? Who could I most afford to lose? My father. And it's as brutal as that. And it wasn't. It's how we are. It's not necessarily as brutal as that, but it's how we think. And our nightmares tell us a lot. I sometimes dream I'm sitting my degree again, and I haven't revised. And that's a real nightmare scenario, yeah. I'm caught out, yeah. Remember, just before I was doing my degree, I looked on the board, I was there twice. I had a fail and a first. So I was there, there was an anxiety bit there. So nightmares tell us about our anxieties and our fears. So we can learn a lot.
Learn from it itself.
Learn from it in that way. A lot of people frequently dream of going to hell. No, I don't believe in hell. I see enough people every day in therapy who are in hell. If there is a hell, it's here in this world. But if people have been brought up, you'll be punished for that. Yeah? You're going to have that recurring thought. And sometimes a dream from years and years and years ago, when we're having a dream, we can say, I've been here before. Frequently, I dream, I used to, a long time ago in this big house, Ian used to go and fix my computers for me there. And it was a vast house, and frequently in dreams I dream I'm back there, and there was a whole area of the house that I didn't know about. I remember I dreamt I walked up this long staircase, and I came to a seat, and I sat there and I thought, I have sat here many times before. But of course a house in a dream is part of yourself that you're exploring for the first time.
Okay.
Yeah. A few weeks ago I dreamt that I was in a museum. It was covered with beautiful books, and there were cases full of antiques. And I thought, this is so weird. Where can I keep it? And I woke up with the understanding that that's who I am on the inside. I have got it there already. So a nightmare might occur if there's something we're not accepting about ourselves. If there's something we're ignoring. Our unconscious is saying, for God's sake, Ian, notice me. I'm going to scare the living daylights out of you to get you to notice what I'm trying to say to you. You know, it might be our conscience is working in the background all the time, trying to give us ideas. So a nightmare is, for children, it's dealing with fear, it's dealing with all sorts of things like that. But it's also, it might be something we are ignoring about ourselves.
So then, let me get it straight then. The subconscious then,
Yeah.
when your dream kicks
Yes.
in, yeah?
Yes.
That's giving you the nightmare type,
That's
yeah?
right, yeah.
And then if you, learn from it, or...
Yes.
It
It will stop.
Right, okay.
Yeah.
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 It's quite a good little process, and a lot of people do learn from it. If you want to talk about it,
Yeah.
Again, any questions? We're still live for the next 23 minutes.
I dare say people are probably very nervous in case we discover that they're sexually depraved or serial killers.
Don't worry, we won't.
Please,
publish.
we won't. It's just live on Facebook and on the website. But if there are situations, please don't be afraid of your dreams.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There is people out there will sit down and talk to you. We can go in private, Again, Martin,
Yeah.
fantastic psychologist, and there's other people out there. Sorry.
Yeah, it's fine. It's fine. Yeah, we can talk in private about any dreams you want, but respect them. That's the important thing. That's the important thing. Always look at them with respect, value them, and find different methods that write them down.
Okay.
Yeah.
Like you said,
Yeah.
hour and a half, alarm night.
Yes.
Digital voice recorder. Remember digital voice recorder, most phones there these days, they're built with the actual apps. You just record it,
Yeah.
little voice notes, play it back in the morning.
Yes.
I think that's what I would do, because I can never remember any of
Never?
Never.
Really?
I can never remember.
For me to remember a dream,
Oh,
I don't really
I'll
dream
try
that
that.
much.
I mean, some people, for example, dream in colour, or say they dream in colour, and others say they dream in black and white.
Now,
The
where's the
reason
difference
we
there?
dream in black and white is probably because our memory of colour fades.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's the thing. I think we probably all do dream in colour, but we forget the colours. Some people have different senses in dreams. They have smell, taste, touch. Yeah.
Okay.
Now, I had a few months ago. I had some horrible things called nasal polyps removed from my nose, so my sense of smell had gone for a good 4 or 5 years.
Wow.
It's back. It's wonderful now, and I am beginning to get smell in dreams. It's almost like a lag.
So you actually,
Yeah.
it's like a mental note then,
Yes.
naturally you're not smelling, you know what I mean, don't you?
Yes. Yes.
That's very interesting, that is.
Yeah. I mean, it's quite amazing going into work from the train and you suddenly notice how some people haven't washed as much. Or I didn't know my pipe smelt like that. Or that red wine tastes very nice indeed.
Okay.
And so you might use your senses in a dream. Some people might have that. Some might have, shall we say, a sense of touch, or they might have a sense of fear, feeling it physically in the body.
Getting actually emotion.
Yeah. Young men who get particularly excited in their early adolescence with sexual dreams, well, perhaps it was just me, so I'm exposing myself on here, usually woke up just before the crucial part. So, you know, sometimes your dreams don't,
Yeah,
you know. So your dreams obviously reveal a lot about yourself. Yeah.
Yeah.
You might also find blind people have dreams.
That's interesting.
Which is an interesting one. I knew somebody who'd been blind from birth, and they told me they dreamt. And I said to them,
How can they...
how can they dream? But you see, the problem was, I, who am sighted, would find it very difficult to be explained how you would know you're dreaming if you couldn't see.
Yeah. How
If
do you
you
know
perhaps, I know, that's what I could, but we couldn't find a common language
Yeah.
to explore that.
It's very interesting that,
Yeah.
because, like I say, you think, like I said, blind from birth,
Yes,
never being able to visually see anything,
yes,
only be able to hear through
Yes.
actual hearing.
yeah,
If they, I think the angle we get into next is, if they've been sighted for a period of time,
that's right.
they would have seen certain things, trees,
That's
objects, so on and so forth.
Right. Yeah.
How do you...
I mean, if you'd never known what the colour red was, how would you describe it to somebody?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. There was some research done that way. Somebody said it was a warm colour,
Okay.
but they've never seen the colour red. Helen Keller, who was born, I think she was deaf, dumb and blind, recovered her hearing and her voice. And she said in an article that when she first spoke, it was a tiny whisper. But to her, as it was if a voice echoed, this sound echoed all around her. So dreams, yeah, and our own perceptions are very, very important, but they're only how we perceive.
Okay, well, perception on it.
I mean, there is a tribe in Southeast Asia called the Sinoi tribe. I think they've been wiped out, unfortunately. But they were the most placid, peaceful people ever. And they used to teach their children how to handle dreams. And they used to talk about their dreams at breakfast time, whatever, yeah. And they would be taught that if they were scared, they were to attack the creature that frightened them or the situation. And if they felt overwhelmed, to call for their friends. The other thing was, they were also taught to, once they'd beaten the creature, or to ask for a gift and forgive it.
Okay.
And they also taught advance towards pleasure. Now, I don't know what that means, but you can imagine a very rich
Yeah.
dream life. Now, those people had a society where there was virtually no violence, there was no psychological trauma. They got on with everybody, and the tribes around them were terrified because they thought they were witch doctors, and they had and the society brought the children up in that way, the Sinoi dream method.
This is very interesting.
Which is, I mean, you can look that up on the net, the
Yeah,
Sinoi
we
dream
could
method.
talk later on
Yeah.
to see who's been
Yeah.
more...
I mean, there's some excellent books by Anne Faraday called The Dream Game, which are well worth looking at.
We'll have to...
And if you have a dream, in some therapy sessions, I've got people to talk to characters in the dream, yeah, and then you pretend you're that character, and you're beginning to access things like that.
Pulling dreams in on,
Yeah.
so the impact.
That's right.
That's so definitely worth. I'm gonna put it on.
Yeah.
I'll look at Amazon or something.
Yeah, Anne Faraday,
Yeah.
The Dream Game, and I can't remember what else it's called. Very
Definitely.
interesting stuff.
I think to wrap up, I've got a very interesting topic here. I hope people are interested in this. It's something I think I've been talking to you for a while. Is
Yes.
out-of-body experiences. I know it's sort of dream-ish.
Yes. I mean, what I want to do is draw the dream link with parapsychology. When we dream, we are operating in a very different sort of way. We're learning that we are not just our body. We seem to exist as a figure outside of our body.
Yeah.
So out-of-the-body experiences frequently occur in dreams. We can dream we fly. We dream we can do all different sorts of things. It gives us a view of another way of looking at the world. And if we can learn to lucidly dream, where we are aware and alive in our dreams, if you like, perceiving the world, then that asks some interesting sorts of questions about the soul, about evidence for survival after death, about the ability to look from different perspectives. So, out of the body experiences, we seem to drift off into a world where we see things differently and experience things differently.
Yeah?
Yeah. So, learning to dream properly and to control it begins us to ask the question from the film The Matrix. How do we know? Can we trust our senses? Is this a dream?
What's real and what's reality type thing.
Yeah. There's no Chinese saying, a man dreamt he was a butterfly, dreaming he was a man. Who is the dreamer?
Yeah.
Yeah. Is this reality here simply a dream? Because we've invested so much stuff in it.
Fair enough.
You know?
Yeah.
I mean, look at that film Inception.
I feel like that.
It's about dream within a dream within a dream.
It's really,
You have to watch it about 3 or 4 times to get any sense from
I
it.
thought it was very Matrixy too.
It is, yes, but it's how you influence those things.
Yeah.
Yeah. So dreams give us a very interesting way of looking at the world differently. So relevance of parapsychology is the ability to understand the world in a different way.
Okay.
What is the dream?
So again, down to...
Yeah, are hauntings other people dreaming? Are they,
So
if time is circular according to Einstein, then who knows what we're seeing? Yeah?
Yeah.
So, some people have sense... I mean, there are lots of recordings of where people have seen things like figures from a different age. Yeah, is that the dream time of a different period? There's all sorts of speculations like that.
I got a book, I don't know if I think I might have talked to you about it before.
Yeah.
Been reading it on and off. It was Dad's side. And it was about this case study they did back in the 1970s.
Yes.
About this, they were doing controlled experiments
Yes.
with out-of-body experiences.
Yes.
Now, say you would be the person
Yes.
and I would do the actual
Yes.
experiment, I would leave my body.
Yes.
But the doctor would go off and put something in the warehouse, okay?
Yes.
And we wouldn't tell the patient
Yes.
or the actual experiment
Yes.
where this would be. The following morning he'd get up and the patient would go back to the doctor and actually say, well look, that book you left down, I don't know,
That's
say
right.
section H,
Yes.
top shelf.
Yes.
Now, how viable would you say something like this would be?
Well, I do know that research has been done with people who have had near-death experiences. And there was an experiment done not so long ago where things were printed up, put on the ceiling, and people who'd had out-of-body experiences looked down, saw themselves, and looked up and saw what was there. When questioned, they got that precisely right. But they could not have seen that from where they were.
Do you think with near-death experiences with
Yes.
the body, do you think it's the body's way then of protecting itself from shock? Or, do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I know what you mean. I mean, we do know that when we have an accident, everything seems to slow down.
Yeah, you see things more vividly.
It may be that that's what's happening in an out-of-the-body experience. There are not only traumas, there are people who can meditate and sort of visualise themselves standing there and then look back and see themselves. There are cases where people have, if you like, seen relatives of theirs just before they died, at that precise moment. There's an old story, there's an old tradition that goes back thousands of years, that what our astral body, if you want to call it, whatever you want to call it, is linked to the physical body by a silver cord. When we dream, they try to explain it by saying that the silver cord is attached and we just wander.
So,
When we nearly die, the silver cord becomes frayed, and at death, the tradition is that that cord is cut.
It's like the umbilical cord, is that the way it looks
Yeah, it's
like?
like an umbilical
The baby's
cord.
cord, yeah.
Precisely. And it's interesting that that's,
Yeah.
it's just like the
It's
umbilical
just-
cord in a different sort of way.
Yeah, it's quite strange, isn't it?
Yeah, and you have situations where people have premonitions not to do something or wake up with a terrible feeling.
Mm.
I feel the positive feeling that something good is really going to happen. And it may be that when we're processing all this stuff, dreams and whatever, this may be the explanation for premonitions, for omens, and whatever. All different ways of sensing what's going on.
Okay.
So the dream is very important. It might sound very psychological this week, but respecting your dreams is an important way to make emotional empathy with other people and to think about how you think about the world.
Connecting on.
If you think the world is dull, boring, grey, with no imagination in it, your dreams are going to be like that. If you learn to look at your creativity through your dreams, you see things in a different sort of way. It may simply be that the origin of all parapsychological belief, all religion or spirituality, originated in the area of the dreams. Yeah, it's where people believe the gods or the spirits or their ancestors talk to them.
Mm.
There's a long, long tradition. In the Old Testament, the dreams are very frequent. In the New Testament, modern Christianity tended to think dreams were all about being tempted.
Temptation
And it's gone, and we don't respect the dreams. But if you go to tribal cultures, if you go to ancient cultures, if you were to speak to a shamanic friend from last week, he would emphasise that dreams are important. And in lots of North American Indian societies, in Siberian Tungus society, you had a big dream when you became an adult, and that's how you knew your life path. Years ago, when I was training to be a therapist or something, I came to a crossroads, and at the crossroads was a creature. It had a human head, a snake's body and wings. On its head was a crown. I was terrified. I thought, should I walk past it? It's like a challenge to me. And I recognised it when I woke up. I didn't walk past it. I was like, did I really want to do this stuff? And I'd say I did.
Yeah.
Years later, I came across a picture of this being in a book on Indian mythology. I have no knowledge of Indian mythology at all at that point. I do now.
Yeah.
It was called a spirit naga.
Do you believe that was then like a force? Would you say foresight?
Well,
possibly?
a lot of people who've I've told about it have said it was my spirit guide. So it could be my spirit guide, it could be many things, but certainly keeps me safe and has got me out of lots of trouble. I'm eternally thankful to it.
I think on that note then we'll wrap up this week's show. With just a reminder, we are looking for some patients, would you say?
Yes.
For, again, past life regression,
Yes, that's right.
as we were talking about last week. So if you are interested in that, please go to our Facebook page, look for Southwest Ghostwatch, go to our website, southwestghostwatch.co.uk, email us, southwestghostwatch@gmail.com. There's many methods you can have a look at it. Google us even, where we, most of us, I think, I'll probably drag Ryan in as well.
Yeah.
And if you want me to interpret privately,
Yeah.
you can find me on Facebook. You
Yes.
can send your messages to me and I'll interpret your dreams. I won't read them out the following week on the show.
Yeah, you can do everything all confidential.
Find me
Yeah.
on Facebook, Martin Shrewsbury, or speak to Ian.
Yeah, I'm Ian Lewis and Ryan Howells.
Yep.
One last thing before we turn the cameras off live
Yes.
is next year, I haven't said anything to you yet, we're looking at doing a paranormal conference,
Yes.
sort of seminar in Wales. We are looking for people, guest speakers,
Yeah.
anybody interested in coming, talking, showing prototype of kit. It doesn't matter from where you are, it could be the UK, Europe, outside of Europe even. If you're interested, really get in touch with us.
Yeah.
We're looking at filling as many seats.
That would be very interesting, Ian, because we could look at it from many levels.
Yeah.
I can fill in all sorts of ways, and we've got people who are specialists in other
Exactly.
sorts of things. I think the point to remember is that parapsychology generally offers a scientific analysis, a cultural analysis and a psychological analysis. They're all valid.
Exactly.
They're different ways of looking at the thing, and that's the creativity of parapsychology.
Yeah.
Carl Jung, let's remember, his father was a minister and his mother was a medium. And he was one of the greatest psychologists there's ever been because he took it from both sides.
Nice hybrid.
Yeah, that's hybrid.
But if you are really interested, then please get in touch. We're looking at doing it. It's about rough date-wise. You're looking at about July the 13th next year, which is, I believe, is Saturday. I know it's roughly just another year ahead, but it's with planning, looking at locations, that type of stuff. Probably all the Saturday and the Sunday. If you are interested, really do get in touch with us, and let's make it a good one for Wales first of all, because nothing like this has ever been done in Wales currently. So it's really something different, unique, and the unity amongst paranormal on different levels. The psychological level, the spiritual level, and then the scientific level, bringing all together, fused it. So if you're interested, then please do get in touch, and I think that's it for us tonight then. So it's good night for myself, good night from Ryan, and
I learned from my ancestors, right the way back from the shamans to the modern day psychotherapists.
and there's a good night from Arthur. So good night everybody, and tune in next Thursday at 7 o'clock. Thank you very much.